Welcome back. You're watching the 80 Money Show with me, Kavita Thapiyal. Now, over the last decade, India has emerged as an attractive investment destination, and this has enticed many non-resident Indians to invest in Indian equity markets. But what options do NRIs have to make investments in India? What are the rules and regulations for NRI investors in India? We will discuss all of this and much more with Harshvardhan Roongta, CEO. Roongta Securities. Harsh, welcome and good evening. We are going to talk about investment avenues available for NRIs. Now, a lot of NRIs actually invest through the route of mutual funds. I mean, you and I have answered and taken up queries of these kind of viewers a lot of time on the show. But then today, let's just break this down and let's explore all sort of investment avenues. Now, let's start with equity, direct equity, and entering equity through mutual funds. Can NRIs do this?
Yes, of course, Kavita. The avenues to invest into India, you can invest into the entire gamut of financial products and even real estate for that matter. So, the options to invest in India for NRIs is abundant. I don't think there is any specific reason for an individual to worry. Of course, if you're an institution or somebody investing, not necessarily an NRI, but an institution, then there are certain other requirements. But individuals residing out of India wanting to invest here, a whole gamut of financial products are available at their disposal.
All right. So how can one do it? If we talk about direct equity and mutual funds, let's start with this, and then later on we go to gold and real estate and other asset classes.
Kavita, if I have to just, essentially, highlight one point which is of a concern to us and which I see in my practice is also when individuals are just moving out of the country or they've just recently moved out and their status has changed to NRI recently. So a couple of things I'd like to highlight here for the knowledge of all these people listening. The first thing is if your residential status has changed to NRI, you must update your bank account. You have to inform your bank that you're no more a resident Indian and your residential status is that of an NRI and your account, which was until now probably a savings account, would need to be converted into an NRO account. And this is as per the FEMA guidelines. So it is not something that your bank wants you to do or that you may or may not do. The FEMA guidelines very clearly specify that you need to update. If you are an NRI, you must update your your savings bank account to that of an NRO. Now, the moment you do that, or rather, if you don't do that, then you're in violation of the guidelines and you're subjected to penal, provisions under the Act. What you need to also know is that besides the NRO, you can also have an NRE account, which is a repatriable account. So NRO and NRE accounts is something that you can maintain with the bank. And all your investments into mutual funds or any other products for that matter can be routed through this NRO and NRE account. Now, when you come down to mutual funds, very specifically, one more thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to update your KYC. So until now, you would have a KYC in which you would have given your residential status to be of India, as a resident Indian, etc. You need to update that and to that of an NRI. Once you do that and you get the KYC acknowledgement, you'll have to submit that to all the existing mutual funds investments that you have. So if you are invested across, say, 7 mutual funds and you have different folios for them, so you would need to submit that KYC acknowledgement with all those fund houses and let them know that your residential status has changed. Along with that, make sure you update your bank accounts in the records of the fund house, in the respective fund house, because just by updating your KYC does not mean that the bank accounts will be, the bank account is updated automatically. Now, and why you need to do that? Because in case of redemption, you will not be able to get the money out because your bank account has now been converted to an NRO and the bank records in the fund house records would be that of a savings account, the earlier one. So you'll have a problem at that time. So please update all your folios with the current bank account that you've gone through. Now KYC also includes a form which is FATCA, that is a foreign account tax compliance account. What you need to do is that will ask you for your TIN, the tax identification number in the country of residence. So you need to fill all that up and just update all yourself with that. Now with that, you're fully eligible and you're fully prepared and fully ready to make your investment. More particularly, if you want, you can talk about the restrictions that mutual funds have when it comes to residents of US and Canada. If you are a US or Canada resident, then you will have certain restrictions. You're existing. There are some fund houses who do not accept any investments. There are some fund houses who accept only lump sums There are some which allow you to invest online while you're not physically present in India. Some fund houses will require you to be present in India. Only then can you make an investment, and they will require a separate declaration for that effect. So you will need to make sure that whichever fund house that you invested in already, hypothetically, you've already been investing into a certain fund, and you moved out now and your residential status changes. There is a possibility that that fund may not be accepting investments from US and Canadian residents. So in that case, all your existing investments that you've done will remain as it is. There is not going to be any change in that. But fresh SIPs or any other instructions that you've given on that folio will not be executed. So these are essentially the things that I believe all NRIs in that sense from an administrative purpose should keep in mind and fulfill all this properly. Once you're done with this, then probably you can look at what kind of investments you can route through your NRO or NRE.
There is this procedural difference, more than anything else in terms of avenues. There is almost the same kind of investment options available for an NRI that it is for an Indian resident. But then talking about other asset classes, even the real estate has the same kind of procedure.
Yeah, so Kavita, see, essentially all your transactions, why I refer to the bank account process and I explain that in detail, because if you are a non-resident Indian, you're technically not allowed to have a savings account here, the resident savings account here. You need to have an NRO or NRE. Now, if you're going to be investing into any product, it could be, you could be real estate for that matter, it could be any, it could be gold as you said, it could be any other eligible products, you will need to route those investments through these bank accounts. So, of course, you can invest into real estate in India. There is no restriction onto that part at least. However, the funds will need to be routed through NRO and NRA. So that is why the bank account becomes very essential. And why I keep reiterating this point is because I know of people who have changed their residential status, who moved out and they continue to have a savings account here. They open a separate NRO account and NRE account. And while maintaining the savings account, I think that's a violation of the law, and people should know that very clearly that there are very strict rules on that. And if in case you come into the eyes of the regulators, then probably you'll have some problems. So just make sure the gateway to invest into India would be through your bank account, and those bank accounts need to be regularized in line with your residential status.
We quickly have to go on the callers, but then last question to you: what are the tax implications here? Are they different?
If I'm talking about mutual funds particularly, there is a provision for TDS. So there would be a tax deduction at source. So while Kavita, you and me being resident Indians, when we redeem money out of our mutual fund investment, all the tax liability for that matter is onto us. We need to calculate our tax liability and pay that separately. In case of an NRI, there would be a provision of TDS. So tax will be deducted at source. So if you're making an investment and redeeming it out of the fund house will deduct TDS and give the balance amount to you. So there is a provision for TDS which is exclusive for the NRIs and not for residents.
Right, so that's the roundup for investment options for NRIs, but then we quickly move on to our viewers now who are on call with us, and I'm talking about our first caller, Vishwanath V. Hi, good evening. How are you, sir?
Hi, good evening, Kavita. Nice you took up my query. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Good
sending
evening
us your
to Harsh
query.
also.
We already have your portfolio. Harshvardhan Roongta will be solving your query today. He has the funds details, and you've invested 2 crore, and the ratio is 60, 30, and 10. You've made it into a large cap, mid cap, and small cap. And in 20 years, 15 to 20 crores out of this portfolio, right, sir?
Yeah, that's what was my query. Yeah.
Will you be investing more?
I don't know. I saw many fund planning. So they said that you will get around this amount after 15 to 20 years. So
Okay.
Is that correct?
All right, we'll just figure that out. And you're also an NRI. All right, Harsh?
Yeah, Mr. Vishwanath, I would like to compliment you for certain, your approach towards constructing a portfolio. So for the benefit of all the others watching, I would like to highlight 3 or 4 very good things that you have done in your portfolio, which will probably help others look at while they're constructing their portfolio. So the first thing, Kavita, it's very interesting to see Mr. Vishwanath is 53 years in age and he's looking long term. I mean, at 53, he's planning for 20 years from now. So that's highly commendable. And very rare that
and he's doing that entirely through equity. I mean, look at the portfolio also that he's designed for himself.
Absolutely. And so we have people who talk about long term and they say that 6 months, what will happen in 6 months, let me know. So 6 months is not long term. We have a 53-year-old who's talking about 20 years from now for his age of 73. I think that's highly commendable and that's the right thought process. The second, of course, Kavita, you highlighted how there is a meticulous allocation towards large cap, mid cap, and small cap. So 60% going to large cap, 13 mid cap, 10 in small cap. So I think it's a wonderful way of allocating funds, knowing where you want to put your money, how much risk can you take. And finally, I mean, there's such a clear focus on saying that I'm going to invest 2 crores. I have invested 2 crores until now. If I just leave it as it is, how much is it likely to become after probably 20 years from now? So yes, Mr. Vishwanath, to your the power of compounding that we talk about. Even if I look at a 12% CAGR on this 2 crores that you have, which grows over a period of 20 years, you'll be very close to the target of about 20 crores that you have. So yes, this money can turn into that fund in case you see an experience at 12% CAGR, which looks reasonably achievable looking at the past track record. I also had a look at your schemes. So good, there are very limited number of schemes for the amounts that you're investing. There are 2 crores, and you have probably 8 schemes, which is the number of schemes is fine. There is some one small scope of consolidation in your portfolio. You could make some changes. However, it's not such that even if you don't make those changes, there is something going to bother you. So you can continue being invested. However, we'll have to look at the tax implications. If you're making any switch, is it worth making those changes? Looking at the tax implications that you may have or any other costs that you may incur. So to answer that question, to sum it up in simple words, you don't need to make any changes. If there is any tax implication, any other thing, if there is no such implication, then probably you can even look at consolidating a little bit here and there. I would suggest that to get into those details, you'll have to probably approach a financial planner in person and then figure this out. Even if you're not making changes, I just reiterate there is no harm per se.
All right, Mr. Vishwanath, do you have to ask anything else?
My worry was only about the Axis Focus 25, Kavita. I
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah. You've
Recently,
written that.
many of your shows they are telling that it is not to switch over from that part. That's why I just forwarded.
So Harsh, he needs to replace, or he should just stay put.
No, so that's exactly what I was referring to. I mean, the fund, all schemes, Mr. Vishwanath, will have their cycles. I mean, somebody will do exceptionally well at a particular time, may not have a good time in a particular phase, and then come back again. So fundamentally, there is no need to make a change. If there is a tax implication, if there is some other cost that you're going to incur to make this switch, then why would you do it if there's only a phase? So that's what I'm trying to highlight. If this fund is going through a cycle, and there is some impact on you, then you don't need to make a change. If there is no impact, the financial impact on making this change, then maybe you could consider this. I mean, it's not that you have to do it, but maybe you could have a look at it and consider this. Now, for the specifics part of it, you'll have to consult somebody in person because without knowing the investment amount, without knowing the cost of acquisition, etc., I would not be able to give you a detailed answer on that.
So much, Mr. Vishwanath, for sending us your query and all the best for your investments. Further, we have Naveen's question now, Harsh, and he's currently investing in small cap and mid cap mutual funds, and he wants to diversify his portfolio into a flexi cap and index fund. Now, which funds are these categories that he's talking about? Are they fine? And he says that he's a long-term investor. Time horizon is of at least 10 to 15 years now.
So, well, Kavita, having an investment in mid and small cap is not a problem. And when he's looking at, he's asking for a flexi cap and an index. For the index, I believe that he's looking at a large cap, which is the right thing to do. So, I'll give him two options. One is an equal weight and one is a pure, replica of the Sensex. So, ABSL Nifty 50 equal weight index fund is one option, wherein all the 50 companies forming a part of the Nifty, there's a 2% allocation in each company. Or else you can go in for a Sensex fund, which is the ICICI Pru Index Sensex fund. This replicates the Sensex as it is. In the flexi cap category, you have a Parag Parikh flexi cap and a Candra Robeco flexi cap. If you notice, I've given two names. It does not mean that you have to pick two funds in each category. I've given the names. Whatever the investor is comfortable can just pick that one scheme in each category and invest.
Right, we move on to Amaya's query, and he says that he's just started investing in mutual funds recently, and he has HDFC mid cap opportunity, and he wants to invest in Nippon small cap and SBI Nifty index. Is the selection fine? And if not, what funds would you recommend? And he doesn't have any corpus in mind right now, so the journey is more of wealth creation and long term.
Kavita, I mean, being a new investor, I would suggest that better to stick to a large cap and a mid cap category. To add a small cap at this junction may just become a little more volatile. See, small caps are more volatile than large and mid cap. So an investor needs to understand how they function. So being a new investor, I think sticking to large cap and mid cap is a good category to be in. And in that sense, SBI Nifty Index Fund is what he's shortlisted, which he can certainly take. In case you still want some small cap in his portfolio, then a multi-cap approach will be a better one. So instead of a Nippon small cap, which is highlighted, I would suggest a Nippon India multi-cap fund. So it will have a large, mid, and even a 25% minimum allocation to a small cap. So Nippon India multi-cap will be an option to consider, and in the large cap category, the Nifty Index Fund of the SBI is from.
All right. With that, thank you so much, Harsh, for being on the show and explaining everything about investment and also answering our viewers' queries on the show today. And with that, it's a wrap. But then, before I end this show, we'll show you a WhatsApp number and an email ID where you have to send us your queries. WhatsApp number is 865-797-4571, and the email ID is themoneyshow@etnow.tv. This is the place where you can reach out to us and get your portfolio checked by our experts. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.